All right. In three, two, one. Hello, and welcome to Know the Score. I'm your host, Don Delarente. I'm joined this week by That's So Jesse. What's going on, Jesse?
Hey Don, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to talk to you. I want to just say that our thoughts and concerns were with you when Joe Flacco was not so great when he went to go see London Tower and all the sights early in the morning. So
The
I was
only
like,
thing
man,
I'm just mad that they had to embarrass me in front of an international company. You didn't wake me up at 9 o'clock and then the whole world had to get to see that. No, no.
and
Anywho,
it was
yeah.
and it was the Jaguars too.
Well, the Jaguars are a lot better on defense than they usually are. So as we saw them beat the Steelers last week when what's his name only yeah Blake
Hmm.
Bortles is terrible, but that defense makes them look better than they actually are.
Okay, the new Tampa Bay Bucks, huh?
I,
From back in the day, I guess.
it's got to be like that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's good to have you on as always. Hopefully, the Ravens will play much better for you this weekend coming up.
I hope so. I hope so. It's the Bears, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's the Bears. Okay. That's what I said about the Jaguars, though. I don't even.
And we're also joined by none other than Tyler Ball. What's going on, Tyler?
Hi guys. You can follow me on Twitter at taball the number one, and of course you can follow Jesse at that so Jesse. Um, Interesting week, actually a crazy week in sports. You got in addition to the NFL, you've got the NHL getting off to a hot start. Vegas Golden Knights going 3-0 to start off the season, their expansion season. You got Alex Ovechkin scorching the Nets already. Oh, geez, it's nuts. 8 goals in 4 games. It's ridiculous. And of course, you got Clemson losing last night in college football. So, uh, and you got the NBA going into its opening week after a crazy offseason. So, uh, championship series in baseball, and it's a wild week in sports, man.
Yeah, it's just like I said to close the show last week. It's the only time when all the sports are doing something and they all make news. So there's definitely a lot to talk about. So we'll jump right into it. But before we get right into it, we're going to let you know that Know the Score can be found on CSPN.us. We can also be found on Twitter at KTS Pod. You can follow me, Don Delarente, at Don Delarente on Twitter. So next, we're going to have the NFL. Going to start off with a bad week for the Cowboys. Started on Sunday. They left a little bit too much time for Aaron Rodgers to make another comeback in front of the home crowd. This is becoming just commonplace for Aaron Rodgers in front of Jerry Jones in his billion-dollar stadium, just being disrespectful, walking off the field yelling, "That's what we do. That's what we do," as he ripped the hearts out of the Dallas Cowboy fans after, you know, Dak Prescott took him down the field, made a great drive, great fake on the red zone. Zone read, ran it in, gave the Cowboys the lead, but as I said, too much time. So we'll turn it over to the number one Cowboy fan on this podcast, Mr. Tyler Ball. Tyler, how did it feel to see Aaron Rodgers once again, deja video, rip your heart out in a game that you played well enough to win in the first half, not so good in the second half, but should have held on and escaped?
I'm going to first start the breakdown with 3 plays that happened before that drive that uh, I almost went completely over it. Uh, let's go to the offensive series for the Cowboys before that drive. Cowboys reached the red zone. Great drive. Uh, um, you got 3 plays that I question, um, particularly on second down. second down, and you're just outside of goal to go, and you try a fade to Des Bryant. Uh, why are you throwing in this situation? Ezekiel just gained 6 yards on the run. Why are you throwing the football? I know the attempt is to score. I get that. But why throw the football? It saved Green Bay at least 25 seconds and a timeout. Just turns out when Green Bay scored the touchdown to win the game, there were 11 seconds on the clock. I will never understand why teams try to cross folks up by throwing the football. I see the one-on-one matchup, cool, but you've been driving down the field behind the legs of Ezekiel Elliott. You just got an emotional first down on the 4th-and-1, thanks to the brilliance of Elliott, who stretched over the first down mark that couldn't even be seen because they were almost going to take Dallas off the field. But yet, you try to throw a fade. So, incomplete pass. You save Green Bay a timeout, which turned out to be oh so critical. And you also saved them at least 11 seconds that you didn't run off going to the next play. It was ridiculous. Second play on Green Bay's drive. And yes, players make plays. The strength of Aaron Rodgers, not getting by not one, but 2 sacks. When he on a critical third down, Aaron scrambling to his left. 2 of your best defensive linemen on the field, DeMarcus Lawrence, he runs through that tackle. Then David Irving has him one-on-one. He's not even molested. He's not even being blocked, and somehow Irving manages not to get him down. And of course, with everybody in man coverage, Rodgers runs for a free 17 yards after that missed tackle. That changed everything. Plus, he was able to get out of bounds, which can change the game from field goal to tie the game versus walking off the field with a touchdown. Third play was the touchdown. Brilliant throw. Can't be, a brilliant throw will always beat great coverage. Jordan Lewis, rookie, who got beat by Adams. They went to him the play before, and Lewis made a heck of a play finding the football. So Davante Adams, give him credit. He said, "Go back to me." Rodgers makes the perfect throw, which is a back shoulder fade, which is nearly unstoppable at the goal line because the Lewis is playing an inside technique, ball thrown outside. Even if Lewis reads the ball perfectly, he can't get his hand over without getting a flag. Perfect throw, perfect play. Same thing when he found Jared Cook the year before. Perfect play, perfect throw. And Green Bay walks out a winner.
He's a bad man. He's a
Yeah.
really, really, really bad man.
I'm over it because Dallas again, it's another example of prevent you from winning defense. That's what I call the prevent defense. You're so concerned about getting beat over the top that you give up a ton of yardage down the field, and eventually you're putting the offense in the situation that it wants to be, where it controls what the defense calls. I say play straight up, play rush 4, rush 5, and don't be afraid to blitz.
Now, on the back end of Dallas's week, we had a federal court uphold the suspension of Zeke Elliott. So now he has to sit out for 6 games after coming off a heartbreaking loss to Green Bay, and the game that he probably had his most consistent game, his best games, most meaningful game. The plays that he made were very meaningful. Like you said, that first down and that 4th and 1 where they had to use the sky cam as the instant replay angle to see that he stretched the ball out while he was laying on top of people. So Jesse, I'm gonna bring you in now. What do you feel about the 6 game suspension? Okay, it's upheld. We're gonna talk about football terms. Dallas seems like they're struggling. Doesn't look like Dak Prescott is, he's not playing bad, but he's throwing interceptions now. We're seeing, he's, last couple of games, he's thrown at least one interception. What's the forecast for Dallas? 6 games, no Zeke Elliott.
As for I could see them just not winning a game these next 6, maybe. The first, they're on a bye next week. I'm pulling up their schedule. Dallas schedule.
So they're at least lucky they can kind of get a week to get acclimated at least.
Right. So they're on a bye this week, right? So then they have the 49ers, winnable game. They have Washington.
Loss. L. L.
Yeah.
L.
So Chiefs, definite L, in my opinion, because the Chiefs are, I'm just looking at that play with the Chiefs defense. Then they have the Falcons, and they have the Eagles, and they finish off that 6-week period at the Chargers.
So they got 2 games that you would think that are definite winnable games, and then they got maybe the Redskin game. I'm just being facetious.
I know you are. That's why I'm
that's
like.
That's always a high emotion, anything can happen game. So I'm just being petty with that. So that's a possible game that they can win. And then you said Falcons and
So 49ers, the Washington, Kansas City, Atlanta,
so
the
Falcons
Eagles,
and Kansas City would definitely be losses, and maybe the Eagles would be a loss too. I don't know.
And then they finish that off with the Chargers.
Yeah, so they could probably go 2-4, maybe.
With the way this team is playing,
I would say 2-4 is a best case scenario.
Yeah, that's about right.
I'm because number one, they don't have the defense to stop either Kansas City or Atlanta, and that was before they decided to cut Nolan Carroll. So, let's look at what Green Bay had a rookie running back run for 120 yards and a touchdown. And by the way, last year Dallas allowed no 100-yard rushers. So they're just not good defensively.
They're not good at all. Mm-mm. And then that offensive line, which we've grown so accustomed to see playing well, or not on par with what we're usually seeing. So, like Tyler said, 2-4 is the best case scenario, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were 0-6 these next 6 weeks.
One thing about the offensive line, it's not as quote unquote bad. It's not bad. It's just not as dominant as before because Ezekiel isn't exploding through the hole. There are less holes. I'll give them that. And Zeke is not as dominant in turning those 5 and 6 yard gains into 30-yard bursts. Ezekiel's still 4th in the league in rushing. Let's not say it's gloom and doom. And Zach is still getting decent protection, but it's not the same as before last year because they were just that much better than everybody else. And I think Zeke did a lot of stuff on his own once he got away from the line.
And plus, then we also look at that the running back core they have after him. So we have, I think Alfred Morris would be running back too. No?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we're looking at Darren McFadden.
Yeah, you got Morris and McFadden. McFadden showed in the preseason that he can still be a part of the offense, particularly out of the backfield. Catching passes. He still got a burst left. So I don't think the offense can keep up. My problem is they're going to have to score at least 7 to 10 more points and finish more drives because they're going to be facing defenses that can put the ball clearly have proven that they can put the ball in the end zone. And
All right.
I don't count out the Chargers either because, Phillip Rivers is still going to sling the ball all over the field. And as we found out from the Rams, as long as you got balance and weapons, you can score on the Cowboys.
All right.
So
All
yeah,
right.
2 of 4 is best case scenario.
Okay. Well, I was giving them the benefit of the doubt, but well, if they do go 0-6, that's good for the chances for the football team that I root for. So we're gonna move on to the Kansas City Chiefs, the most impressive team, most explosive team in the NFL. 5-0. They went down to Houston, put up a lot of points. Deshaun Watson actually, opened a lot of eyes again. Second straight game where he, balled out, got Houston, in the 30s on the point total. The Kansas City Chiefs were saying that they were going to be more explosive this year, take the ball down the field. A lot of teams say that every year in training camp, we're going to be more aggressive on defense. Oh man, we're going to be more explosive on offense. We're going to take more shots. It never really develops once the season plays out. That's not been the case in Kansas City, as Alex Smith has been just racking up long touchdown passes, long runs by Kareem Hunt. Special teams got in the mix this week. Tariq Hill, running one back. So, Jesse, the most exciting team in the NFL are the Kansas City Chiefs. Who would have thunk it?
Well, that's what happens when your quarterback is playing for money. His contract is due to end at the end of the season. I think before the season started, they're floating up. There's whispers, at least from what I understand, about like trades or not renewing. So then he's like, I don't have to just check the ball down every so often. I can throw the ball too, and that's what he's done, and that's part of Kansas City's success the last 5 weeks throughout the season.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I thought
Sure.
that Alex Smith. Well, I was just saying in agreement. Excuse me. Yes, ma'am. I was just thinking in agreement that I heard that in the preseason, and they were like, we're gonna draft Mahomes, and he's got a big arm, and he can run around. He's really wild. He's kind of like Brett Favre, quote unquote, when he was coming out of college. We can calm him down, but we can't teach him how to throw 70 yards, doing everything mechanically wrong like he can do it. But that seems to have inspired Alex Smith. And now he's showing them like, hey, I got these little fast guys. If I can throw it 30 yards right in their hands where they can just keep running, they can go the other 40 and I can do just as good as he can. So it's been fun to watch. They've got more of a college style offense than most teams have in the NFL right now with a lot of trickery and movements and sleight of hand and sleight of eye. So they've been really fun to watch. Um, Now, Tyler, Kareem Hunt, it's come out of nowhere. Now they starting to incorporate their second running back because, what makes it harder to contain if you're running all these different crazy formations is if you got more people to, put in the mix. So last week they displayed more of a, combo running attack. Just talk about the shakeup of Andy Reid's offense and how he's expanding upon the, quote unquote college style offense in the NFL.
Well, Charkandrick West has been a fantasy stud the last 3 seasons because he is extremely versatile. He catches a lot of passes out of the backfield, and he tends to score, particularly around the red zone. He's been really effective, especially on the outside, especially calling screens. Hunt's been amazing. Hunt doesn't need necessarily the big crack to get into to explode for big yardage. He's getting a lot of great blocking from the Chiefs, which has been honestly remarkable considering they're rather pedestrian offensive lineman name wise. I mean, yeah, they do have a number 1 pick in Fisher, but overall, they just don't scare anybody. But yeah, that's when you have a 2-back scheme, a guy who's effective as far as catching the ball, and Hunt's done well as far when they decide to use him as a receiver too. So that just expands the playbook. And Andy Reid right now is just playing pitch and catch. And here's the thing that gets me about Kansas City. They're doing it without a perceived big target outside threat other than their tight end Travis Kelsey. They're not throwing the ball necessarily on the perimeter, um, unless unless Tariq gets wide open. Um, they use a lot of middle screens. They use a lot of bubble screens. They use a lot of uh, the in routes, and they create the mismatches that they want to go to. Um, and it's fun to watch.
Well, I think Andy Reid's always had the reputation, or everybody the perceived reputation, that if he could call a game where he didn't have to call a run and play, he would probably be all game for that. So it's not a surprise that he would be a fan of a lot of bubble screens and middle screens to kind of substitute for his running game, but maybe use his running backs as the players to catch those passes. So it's another way that they get their hands on the ball, and things become more like a punt return than actual running play, and they have to deal with less defenders, and they can get bigger plays if somebody misses a tackle, which is really smart. So we're going to transition to one more element in that game. That was the team on the other side. We're going to talk about first the Michael Jordan of the NFL, as Dabo Swinney said he could possibly be,
Oh
Mr.
gosh.
Deshaun Watson. Um, he's electrifying, and he put it on display Sunday night in front of a good audience to watch that game, I'm sure. Um, I thought that, he showed good in his second game. He's played, against Bill Belichick, and he's played against, Kansas City, Bob Sutton, and these two, old wise defensive minds. And, he's put up 30 plus against them with, not a lot of help from his defense. So I think the future's bright for the young man. I don't understand what the scouts didn't see. Me and the NFL chick from the Gridiron Gals were talking on Twitter this week. Like, he did, go toe to toe with Alabama twice. And if there's any college team that's close to an NFL defense with NFL players and speed and all the stuff that you would, replicate in the NFL, it would be Alabama. And, he beat them once and was on the edge of beating them the first time. So just talk about what you think and saw from Deshaun Watson. I thought he is, counted himself well for two starts and who he's played against. Jesse.
Sorry. Repeat that
Yeah.
question again. Sorry.
Oh, just what your thoughts on Deshaun Watson? I know you don't think he's. You had something to you breathed under really hard when I said
No,
Michael Jordan of football.
no, that was because Dabo Swinney is somebody that everybody should be signing at once in a while because he said something stupid or
You need
doesn't.
somebody every once in a while who'll love you like Dabo Swinney loves Deshaun Watson.
I know, but just
Yeah,
invoking
yeah,
MLK under any
yeah,
circumstance under some black guy you think is a really nice person. It's just not the way to do it.
yeah. I know.
But Deshaun Watson, really really promising, really great rookie season he's having so far. Um, yeah, I mean, I like how he's just not afraid to just throw it long or throw it like it's just not. I appreciate playmakers like him, and in that same vein, Carson Wentz, who are not afraid to, you know, scramble around the field or is not afraid of like third and long because with that, it's just more exciting play, which we've seen out of Houston. So
Yeah, I think they've been a lot more exciting the last 2 weeks to watch. Bill O'Brien actually looking like he knows what he's doing was a quarterback for once. He's had the reputation that he was good working with quarterbacks, and it kind of has not developed. That he's kind of ran through a bunch of them, but maybe with this, Deshaun Watson, he'll have enough creativity and he can execute what he really wants to do. Speaking of Carson Wentz, the Eagles came down to Charlotte. They moved to 5-1. It's a little rough start, but they persevered. Luke Kuechly maybe suffered a concussion. Looks like it possibly was a concussion. And the Panthers, soft up the middle, allowed the Eagles running game to kind of take over and shorten the game. And Carson Wentz again making plays in big spots, like Jesse said, on third down. He's the most dangerous man on third down, it seems like. Uh, and they held off the Panthers 28-23. Cam Newton, late interception, looked like he was going to make a comeback, but not to be. So we'll start with Tyler this time. Tyler, thoughts on Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers? Looks like they're struggling with Jonathan Stewart, and they're making a real conscious effort to try to get McCaffrey his touches, and looks like the receiving core is trying to come through for Cam, but you can tell maybe in this game more than any other he might be missing Olsen, and they got to try to really work on the tight end and get that consistency going.
You're exactly right. Egg Dixon was coming off a career game last week against the Patriots. 5 catches for 157 yards. The 2 longest receptions of the year. And Philly, with its solid secondary and linebacking core, made a conservative effort to keep guys in front of them. They went to a moderate 2 deep zone, which kind of took the big play away from Cam. He was able to find some targets in the middle, but when Philly stepped up their pressure, they were bringing sometimes 6 and 7 guys, and Cam tends to rush his throws when he sees a big pass rush. So that kind of neutralized the big playability of Funches and Benjamin. Also, Philly's able to play up on the line of scrimmage, and they essentially shut down Jonathan Stewart. Stewart had no room at all. Literally, it took until the fourth quarter for him to have a run of a positive yard. It was rough. I mean, every time he got the ball, it wasn't 2 or 3 guys that he was trying to fend off. It was about 6 or 7. The whole defensive line would make tackles. McCaffrey, a lot of teams have keyed on him. He was able to get outside for a touchdown off a goal line play, brilliant play call. But overall, he has not been the super explosive, get outside and make a play. He leads the team in receptions, so the touches aren't a problem. It's just that he has not been able to be the make a guy miss and extend plays and get, turn a 3-yard out into a 7 to 10 yard gain. Just hasn't been. Those plays just haven't been there for him. Guys have been able to corral him. And Newton himself, I still think Newton's a little bit rattled as far as throwing the football. It could be some issues with his shoulder again. Because he has off-season shoulder surgery. I just think that maybe his accuracy beyond 20 yards leaves a lot to be desired still. There was some questionable play calling in the last 2 drives. They finally were able to get something going, and then they called 3 inexplicable long passes, which led to a 4th down and of course a turnover on downs before Carolina was able to get the ball back, and then Cam throws a terrible interception off of a blitz pickup where the receiver doesn't make the right read and Cam throws it up the seam instead of throwing it outside. So who knows? I don't think Carolina is in that much trouble even without Kuechly because Mayo has filled his hole nicely. He's played a bunch because of Kuechly's previous concussions. So I think defensively they're okay. I just think that they allowed a few more big plays, particularly on some critical third downs. Wentz was able to find rookie Hollins from North Carolina on 2 big third down plays, including one that set up the potential game winning. I mean, to be the eventual game winning touchdown on a 3rd and 8, on a 3rd and 15. Um, so that may be another new target for Philadelphia. So uh, we'll wait and see. But I think Carolina will be okay.
All right. So we're going to talk about, moving into week 6 really fast before we move on from the NFL. Really, the story of this week is going to be the injury report and how many big name guys are on it. Unfortunately, we had Odell Beckham and Brandon Marshall, and basically the whole Giants wide receiving core is out. J.J. Watt, of course, Dalvin Cook, Hody Nada was hurt, and I didn't even know that. And they're all on injured reserve. So just a rough week as far as we go for the injury front. So next, we're going to move on to the games as we're going to see Jesse. We're going to talk about your team first as you guys are going against the Bears. Trubisky is getting his second start as the starting quarterback of the Chicago Bears. Um, what type of faith are you having that you guys can get it together on offense and piece things back together on defense and come back strong?
Well, on defense, I let them do what they do because they are pretty damn good on defense. Now on offense, however, I haven't really seen much of Chicago's defense, so I can't really say. But just historically, seeing how they play, I'm not as. I mean, I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, we'll definitely win that, but I have at least a hint of faith. Um, Seeing depending on how Chicago's defense plays. If they play a really good game, I'm like, well, I don't know how this is gonna go because we have some. Terrence West is injured. Rashad Perriman doesn't have hands. Mike Wallace. It depends on the day. So I'm just, I'll be biting my nails. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Chicago has a really good running game, and their receivers are 50-50, kind of like Mike Wallace. So, if you guys have a hard time stopping the run and they can get a couple of play action passes, big plays, they have to stop Miller. He's probably their most reliable target, it seems, with Trubisky in there who can actually move around and, get the ball to him. So,
And now I'm a little bit concerned because our run defense is pass defense fine, run defense not so much.
okay, yeah, so might be a concern there. My team, the Washington football team, getting a visit from the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco just released Navarro Bowman, longtime standout star. Injuries and age are starting to take a toll on him. They feel he's lost a step. They thought they had a trade worked out for him. Did not seem like it. Maybe they're trying to at least make it seem like Navarro Bowman wasn't happy with the trade. And so they released him right here a couple of days before the game. So hopefully the Washington football team, very quiet around the team, few injuries to some key guys. Josh Norman will be out with some rib injuries. Trent Williams, all pro left tackle, is questionable with a little knee problem. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully it should be a game that we don't keep exciting for too long. Put a lot of pressure on Hoyer and maybe let Garcon catch a touchdown just for fantasy purposes from a team, and will be a win-win in all circumstances.
I'm surprised they haven't asked Kirk Cousins more questions about the 49ers.
Well, there was this thing going on that we'll talk about next on Know the Score that you can find on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and SoundCloud. Because in the District of Columbia, there was a baseball series going on between America's lovable losers, but as far as last year was concerned, America's lovable World Series winners, the Chicago Cubs, and the Washington Nationals. For supremacy of who can fly the W, because you guys have the curly QW on the hats for the national fans, and then when the Cubs win, they say fly the W because they raised the flag when they win at Wrigley Field. So this was all types of exciting. Game 5, the Nats jump out, and then the managing part of the baseball game happened, and Joe Madden again beat Dusty Baker at just how you use your players and who you can tell who's hot and who's not. And the Cubs stormed all the way back and they held on to win and defeat the Nationals in their home ballpark. And the Nationals, again, have never won a playoff series. They've been the best team, I think, twice. They've been second best team like 3 or 4 times. They've never gotten out of any round of the playoffs. So, wild game, the game five, a lot of offense, just, all types of pitching moves and strategy. So, Tyler, I know that we talked about this in the preview, and I said the only way that the Nationals might be able to lose is if Joe Madden just really does a number on Dusty Baker. And Joe Madden stole 2 games.
That's
And
that's all that
that's the
matters
difference. Yeah,
in a in a matchup just like that. That's what happens. I don't know if I mean I at this point, um, I don't know what you can do as far as the Nationals are concerned, as far as making a change. Um, it's always about who can you replace them with. Maybe it's a new voice. Maybe a new voice. I don't know. I don't know if I mean Dusty get there's a lot of sentiment for
I
Dusty
mean,
Baker,
but they've already
and
tried
I
the
just
new
don't know.
voice with Dusty Baker, though. No.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. Um, it's just that Dusty this has followed Dusty now. He's been consistently outmanaged in the postseason, and I don't know if you're going to I don't know if you're going to do any better right now. You got 2 more years for what is it? 1 more year or 2 more years with Bryce Harper as a free agent. So what do you do? Just come back next year or what? I mean, who knows? I'm just at a loss for words because it just seems like this just continues to happen to the Nationals, and you feel like they deserve a breakthrough for being. But they're the best team in a very weak division in the NL East. So I just don't really know what they can do as management. They've had the best rotation. They've had the best hitting. They still have a ton of great hitting, and the bats just disappeared at the
yeah.
worst, as the most inopportune time.
They're
Uh,
gonna have to make some tough decisions. They're gonna have to see if Jason Worth is, he looks like maybe he's at the end. He didn't really have a good series at all. They tried to, slide him up and down the lineup. They tried to find a spot
mm-hmm.
for him, and nothing seems to have worked out. So, yeah, the Nationals are definitely gonna have to take some hard looks. It just looks like Dusty Baker didn't have a understanding strategy. If you wanted to necessarily get Scherzer in the game, then he should have started pitching backwards by putting Rourke, who they, didn't took a start away from, who was fresh. Put him in, let him be the lone man, and then use Scherzer as maybe, your closer and have your closer be your setup man. If that was the whole goal, if this thing starts getting out of hand, I'm going to Scherzer. Well, you got the lead, so just wait off for Scherzer. But he didn't play it like that, and as you can see, Joe Madden, when he got a chance to get Wade Davis in the game, he got him up and got him in there, and he held on. It was a little leaky there, but he got it done. So, congrats to the Cubs. And so now, as we're recording this, the Cubs and the Dodgers will score off in their game one. As we record this, last night, the Yankees went into Cleveland, went in and won on the road, upset the best team in all of baseball. And it was another unlikely source, as little Didi, as I call him, because I had him on my fantasy team this year. Didi Gregorius, he hit 2 home runs to set the tone, got the lead out there. CC Sabathia gave him 4 good innings that he could, and then all of a sudden, Joe went to the bullpen, and the Yankees bullpen actually outdueled the Indians bullpen, and they got one more home run from Bird, who seems to be, budding into a superstar. And the Yankees are advancing. to play Houston, and that game took place last night. Altuve setting the tone here, doing what he does, manufacturing the run, getting the first run on the board. Dallas Keuchel, outstanding, 10 plus strikeouts. He had 11 over 7 innings. First pitcher since Nolan Ryan in 1986 by Astros pitcher to have 10 strikeouts in the game. And again, Greg Bird provided the only run with a homer late in the game, but he also maybe uh, could have been the tying run, as early in that game he got thrown out at home by a gorgeous throw from left field by the left fielder of the Astros. So, Jesse, American League Baseball. I know you're an Oriole fan, so you watch more of the American League. What are your thoughts on this American League Championship Series? First, talk about I know the Yankees. Actually, this Yankees as team is kind of likable. They have a bunch of new players that you don't really know. People aren't familiar with. They're
Right.
not making a lot of money. They're kind of ahead of schedule. So talk about them a little bit. What were your impressions of them just knocking out Cleveland?
The Yankees and likable, really? Are you
I
believe
think
that?
this team is. I think I like this team. I don't think they're you know I don't have a lot of guys I don't like on this team yet. Anyway.
That's true. That's true. But bias. But like me, Yankees but yeah. As for the Yankees, who might just be not. Well, I'm not gonna say like they're the worst team in the playoffs, but they're definitely not the best. And for them to knock off Cleveland as they did was interesting. Um, and because we've seen how Cleveland went through that 22 game win streak, smashing all kinds of records for most wins, consecutive wins in a season, and just to be knocked out like they did. Um, yeah, baseball is just weird and crazy like that, and so that's why now we have the Yankees in an American League Championship Series, and I don't really, yeah.
I think like this, baseball fans may be like, that's not really what we wanted because everybody wanted to see, of course, the Indians and the Astros, two best teams in the American League. Most people think the two best teams in, all of baseball go head to head for 7 games and see who came out on top. But the TV executive people are like, yes,
Oh
the
yeah, because the
Yankees.
Yankees are national, yeah.
Yes, it's like, oh man, the people who sell beer and cars and all that stuff, man, they got definitely got a surprise. So it'll be interesting to see if the Yankees can bounce back against these two Cy Young pitchers. They've got Verlander going today against them, and that's going to be tough because he's been really good since he's moved to Houston. Aaron Judge is really struggling. They're pitching him very, everything low in the strike zone. They're giving him one pitch to hit, and he's not hitting it. And then they're just working on with curveballs and changeups just in the dirt and at his feet. So maybe he can get out of his slump. But like I said, Greg Bird, youngest player to ever have 3 home runs in a postseason since Mickey Mantle. So, he looks like he's turning into a very good player. Tyler, we'll bring you in on, we'll let you get back into the National League Championship Series that starts off today between the Dodgers and the Cubs. We get a rematch from last year. Clayton Kershaw again coming in off an injury, not really his best, as the Dodgers did sweep Arizona to move into this position since the last time we spoke. Give me a little preview, Cubs and Dodgers Part Two.
It all comes down to, I believe, starting pitching. Um, I think that if you get a great effort from Quintana in game one, you go deep, you try to avoid going deep into your bullpen, then the Cubs have a chance. Dodgers are going to be the favorite just because they have better starting pitching. But I think the Cubs can win the series. They have to go. The Cubs are going to have to get some hits, of course. But I think it's the race to see who goes into the bullpen because I think the Cubs actually have an advantage there. Um, The key is going to be I'm going to love to see Kershaw and Quintana going up. The Dodgers impressed me by handling Arizona the way they did, uh, with with actually no issues after Arizona gave them all sorts of problems during the regular season, particularly over the last couple of months. Um, I think that Quintana will be very critical, setting the tone. Dodgers have also announced their rest of the rotation. You get Hill in game 2, Darvish in game 3, and Alex Wood in game 4 when they go back to Chicago. I think that's a powerful lineup, but I don't think it's totally impenetrable. If they do that, the Cubs can string some hits together and play some old school National League baseball. They can stay in this series.
All
But
right.
it's going to take a Herculean effort from the Cubs starting pitching.
All right. So, baseball is definitely heating up. They're getting close to the World Series. The championship series are always full of drama. It's always good to see the angst in the crowd that the later it gets. And, the relievers start putting the games on the line, and, everything's such magnitude, and they're walking that tightrope trying to hold on to that one run lead with guy on third or second and big hitter coming up. So much fun the baseball playoffs are. So we're just going to let everybody know that this episode of Another Score is sponsored by Audible. And you can get a free trial on Audible by going to audible.com. You can do that by going to www.audibletrial.com/know the score. You can get a free download and also a 30-day free trial to try any of the 150,000 titles that they have available. You can get that on Kindle, MP3, iPhones, and any other way that you can download through their app as well. So please support the sponsor, support Know the Score, and support CSPN by getting a free trial through Audible. Again, that's www.audibletrial.com/know the score. Get your free download. Check it out. Next, we're going to talk about the NBA. It's coming back. They've got the long-awaited offseason is over with. The preseason is done. We had their last preseason games. And so now the season is going to start on Tuesday night. As we're going to have, I guess what they would deem the Final Four, if you could have a preview of the NBA season to start out with. This would be the games that they would probably say would be your conference finals, as we're going to have the Boston Celtics traveling into Cleveland. Of course, we have the drama between Kyrie and LeBron on that game to make it all juicy and exciting. And then we have the Warriors getting their big rings again, Kevin Durant's first, as they face the Houston Rockets, where they have, Chris Paul joining alliances and forces with James Harden to try to take down the mighty, mighty Warriors. Jesse, we know that you live for the drama. We know you live for the story. Which game is the most exciting and most intriguing to you?
Easy. Boston versus Cleveland. I mean, just for, these Jedi mind tricks that Kyrie will give you before the game, just for the, passive aggressiveness that LeBron will give you, and then just to see that there's no change in the order in the Eastern Conference. So that's really it. Sure, there's others, but
Let's talk about your local team, which is the Washington Wizards. How do you feel about their upcoming season? Getting another year under Scotty Brooks. Maybe they'll have a better, start out of the gate this year. A little bit more confidence in Brad Beal as he came on towards the end of the season. John Wall seems to have taken a step, matured. Are you feeling good that you guys can maybe be a top 3 team this year in the Eastern Conference?
I don't think so. Maybe. I don't. That team runs so hot and cold that I can never just say like, oh, they'll improve upon on next year because what we saw in free agency, they didn't really improve. So I can at least say with confidence another 40-win season. But if they will ascend to at least the top three in the East, I have my doubts.
Okay. Now, Tyler, we'll ask you, which game do you feel if is the most intriguing of the two? You still think it's Kyrie and Boston going against LeBron and Cleveland, or what about Durant now being a champion and having to defend that, and the new kids on the block, but Houston coming in and getting their first crack at the champs.
I'm actually going to take that one because I want to see which team has a learning curve uh, uh, as far as Houston goes. Uh, I'm not too concerned with Oklahoma with Golden State because they have literally an embarrassment of riches. I mean, how do you add Omar Caspi and Nick Young to the one of the best shooting teams ever assembled? I mean, both of those guys are upgrades from what you have on particularly on offense. I mean, quick release, perimeter shooters with unlimited range, and Young actually, when he's interested, can play some defense. So I'm not concerned about Golden State, especially only when I want to watch good basketball. So the interesting factor is Houston. Where are they going to fit Ryan Anderson in all of this? Uh, he's going to stand out for three. He's going to stand out on the perimeter, but he's going to get abused on the defensive side of the ball. So even though you upgraded defensively with Chris Paul over even over Patrick Beverly, Houston remains a mystery to me because I just don't think they're going to get enough defensive stops to be um, to be a factor when it comes to the last the last two teams standing come playoff time. But it'll be a fun season. There'll be a lot of points scored. There're going to be a lot of plays made, and particularly if you like basketball, opening weekend is going to be a lot of fun because you can get to see all of these new teams and all these new transactions, how they're going to work. You still have San Antonio being San Antonio. Kawhi Leonard is going to make a run at the MVP award just because uh, he's going to have to do a little bit more, especially with Tony Parker out. Um, you're going to see a lot more playmaking, which I think is the thing that keeps him from the MVP race, is that he's not seen as a playmaking type guy on offense. He steps his assist up to about 5 or 6 a game, then yeah, he's a bona fide candidate. You don't count on Harden or uh, Russ to go triple double every night. Not now. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this works. But I'll
All
be
right,
I'll be
now
looking for it.
now I'm going to pose this question, then we'll kind of move on off the NBA really fast. Who is going to be the surprise team? I know everybody is in love with the Milwaukee Bucks. So besides the Bucks, I want, name a couple of teams that maybe have your eye on, thinking, if things go right, maybe they could be a surprise or get in the playoffs. And some people didn't think that that was possible at the beginning of the season. So Jesse, I'll begin with you. Who do you think could
Uh,
be a surprise team?
this is like a complete shot at a dartboard, but maybe the Timberwolves?
Hmm. Okay, with Jimmy
Possible?
Butler coming in.
Yeah. I'm not, yeah, there's the possibility of it, but I'll go
Okay,
with that.
okay. Tyler, surprise team or two that you have on your list?
Um, Surprise team, as in not make the playoffs and into the playoff hunt, will probably be the. I mean, and I think the T Wolves are a little bit more obvious than most. But I just want to see what the Lakers do. I want to see I want to see a 15 to 20 game improvement from the Lakers. We'll probably get 10 to 12, but for obvious reasons, Lonzo Ball, they have a real point guard who's a pass first point guard. Um, they've got they've got a couple of shooters. Um, I'm looking at this from a basketball sense, not necessarily from a hype sense. I want to see what the Lakers will do, um, particularly since they start off really well as far as scheduling wise. So uh, I would like to see them win 40 to 40, 42 games and maybe finish just outside the playoff hunt. But they're going to be in, I mean, of course, we're going to see a lot of Laker games just because of Lonzo Ball. But I'd love to see them improve on the court just because of the interest factor.
Right, right. I think maybe not a surprise team, but a team that'll be fun to watch if you can stay up late. With Phoenix Suns, they seem to, kind of figure some things out towards the end of the season. I think there'll be a lot of surprise teams coming up in the West. I think, Denver may be a team with now with Paul Millsap out there, veteran to go with all their kids that they've got. They may be able to surprise some teams and surprise some folks and be on nipping at the edge. And one more team, Tyler, may finally all come together. Charlotte Hornets. They can stay healthy for once. They need to get some better training staff in there to keep those boys from getting injured. Because if MKG can play most of the season, they actually might have the person who can make some stopper on defense and score just enough to get them over the top in all the close games they seem to always lose.
Let's add to the one thing when you add Dwight Howard to a healthy Tyler Zeller. Crazy stat. Shout out to Zach Lowe for this. There have been only 8 teams in the NBA to rebound more than 75% of opponent misses. All 8 of those teams have played in the last 3 seasons, including the Hornets twice. The Hornets may actually rebound up to 85% of opponents' misses with their lineup because they don't necessarily like to get out in transition, but they actually concentrate and get the glass. You play a twin tower movement with Zeller at the 4 and Dwight at the 5, or even play 5 minutes with Zeller. Uh, they're going to be a tough out because they're going to be hard to score on.
Yeah, so a little bit of NBA preview. Next week we'll have a few games under our belt, so we can kind of see, what the landscape is early in the season. Hopefully LeBron plays. There's been some noise that maybe this ankle injury may be, a little bit more serious than they're playing it up to be, or it just may be LeBron sandbagging, getting the drama up. Jesse, what you think?
I would love I would love that so much. But
And
hey, I like I said, I like Sean Freud in my sports. So
he does a wrestling thing. It doesn't look like he's gonna play on Monday, and then all of a sudden, it's up a game time decision, and it's touch and go, and then he goes out there and scores 72, and on a bad ankle, and then you have like legend forever type status. So the theater of the mind is sometimes greater than the theater in the show. So there could be an example. So we're going to turn into the theater of fantasy football. Just got to give a shout out to No Goodell Shall Prosper, as he is definitely prospering right now, 5-0. Best team in the league by far. He's got 515 points scored already. Um, just so far, cream of the crop, but he's followed closely by Tim Dog. He's got 4-1 record, 466 points scored. Um, Top 5 is Tyler coming in third. He's 3-2, 430 points scored. The B Max slaps, Mr. Don Victor. What's going on, Don Victor from the WrestleCast? He's at 3-2, and I come in myself at 3-2, slightly ahead of Granddaddy's Dogs and Jesse, who are also 3-2, because I just have a few more points than they do scored by my fantasy football team. So the playoff race is, starting to get real serious as we're moving into weeks 6, 7, 8, and 9, kind of the weeks that really matter when your team starts figuring out who's good and who's not and who's playing so far. So Jesse, who are you feeling on your team, and who aren't you feeling on your team that you're thinking about maybe getting rid of and saying, I'm done with him?
Did I get? I hope I changed my lineup since the Beckham's injury. I've never done well on the running back position. That's just never a place where I've drafted well. So, um, yeah, I'll scramble for a running back when I have to. As for wide receivers, I haven't really checked who's on the waiver wire yet. But if I could find someone, or maybe two, because I think I'm making some moves in my bench and on my starting wide receiver that could kind of make up for that production, I'll be happy as well.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people are in that scramble mode this week. By losing Odell Beckham, a lot of people's number one choices in their fantasy league, and like you're saying, it may take um, two receivers to kind of make up for the production you expected from him. Tyler, you're sitting at third, and so in theory you should be pretty happy with your team, but in reality, is there some things that you're concerned about, position or player, that you thought you would be getting more from that just hasn't panned out? Tyler, I
I
still
was
see.
I
Oh,
was
there you go.
devastated. To be honest, my running back took a huge hit with Dalvin Cook hitting injured reserve this week. That was one of the injuries we didn't talk about. But Cook was having an outstanding season. He was going to challenge for the NFC Offensive Rookie of the Year. Him going down kind of puts a dent on me trying to catch Tim and Derek. Uh, but I do have the number one receiver, his teammate Stephon Diggs. I do have the number one rated quarterback in Matt Ryan. T.Y. Hilton's coming in at number 4 over receivers for me. So also, I have Jacksonville's defense, which has done very, very well for me. Uh, don't let their ranking fool you. They score a lot of points because they can take the ball away and they know what to do with it. I mean, they've scored quite a few defensive touchdowns, including 2 last week against Ben Roethlisberger. Uh, what I am looking to do this week, I went down and grabbed a couple of pieces. Um, I'm looking to replace Cook with. I was able to snag uh, Green Bay's new running back, and I also was able to. I was able to look for another piece. Uh, McGuire from the Jets. That's who I grabbed. Um, this week, Diggs has been ruled out. So I'm gonna have to start Larry Fitzgerald. So that's gonna hurt me a little bit. Uh, I may have to use Ted Ginn in my flex position. Um, well, actually, I used Benjamin. So I got some decisions to make over the next hour or two before I set my lineup. Um, Jonathan Stewart was terrible this week, but I still think I have a pretty good matchup going up against Roll Up a Blount. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, of course. I think everybody is, getting ready to find out just how good their fantasy team is in the next few weeks, because the injuries are starting to, hit teams, and they're gonna have to scramble and start to rely on some people that they really didn't think that they would have to, like Ty Montgomery being out, kind of been hamstringing me. Howard has been fantastic. Pierre Garcon, really good. Sterling Shepard, I was hoping I could, get him going. But now he's out. He's hurt, of course, with the ankle injury. Joe Mixon has been a little bit disappointing for my team. Thought he'd be a little bit more explosive. Almost 5, 6 games into the season. Uh, Greg Zerline, he's the best. You can always count on him for long field goals. And my bench, not really anything outstanding. I've got, 2 high level quarterbacks on the bench just in case anybody wants to make a trade, needs a quarterback, put that out there. So I think we're actually a team on the come up. We started a little slow, got behind in a couple of games, and now we've kind of been on a little winning streak. So I feel good about how I'm looking. So watch out for they don't want none. So at this point, we'll transition to the end of the show. Jesse, I'll let you go first. Just some things that we didn't cover, or something that you'd like to talk about, um, that we normally don't get a chance to here on Another Score.
Sure. So this week for me is going to be for the first time since 1986, U.S. national, the U.S. men's national team, not the U.S. team. The U.S. men's national team are not going on the trip to Russia this summer for the World Cup. I think a lot of us a lot of folks who are in the development in the youth development world or just watched has kind of seen this potentially coming ahead since the last World Cup, just because we're relying on a lot of old players. They're relying on not very good players, and there's a lot of nostalgia going on. And you could blame the coach, you can blame the players, fine, but it's at the root of it all is really the lack of development that's been going on in the youth levels. Um, some of the selective investment, I'll call it, of youth talent, because there is talent, but just not being developed or not, you know, how is the U.S. the only pay to play league? When probably the only pay to play league in the world, where it's usually a poor man's sport, and so if I think the for the U.S. men, they might take this World Cup, probably the next one too. Put more resources into developing, especially in areas, lots of people of color that don't get. I mean, I was one of those kids who parents couldn't afford to, travel and buy equipment. So there's an opportunity, but are they willing to take it? And that's my time.
All right, all right. Very interesting to watch. Very interesting to watch. Tyler, your final thoughts?
Um, I'm gonna take this up to a a small school in Bowie, Maryland. Bowie State Bulldogs. Uh, they are a HBCU. They're one of the top teams in Division Two, with a currently 6-0, with a spread offense, averaging very close to 50 points a game, led by quarterback Amir Hall. But the real story is um, a receiver there named Lisana Cisse. Uh, he's a native of Sierra Leone. Obviously, that's the um, Kanye West made a two famous songs, "Diamonds from Sierra Leone," and of course a remix with Jay-Z. He did where they both discussed the trade of blood diamonds. Uh, it's a war torn country. Uh, 50,000 people were killed in the revolution to overthrow the current government. Uh, Cisse was able to escape into Guinea and eventually left the country to go to San Jose, California. Um, Eventually, Cisse went to live with his grandmother in Bowie and ended up being a local Bowie High School product, outstanding track athlete, national champion in the 4x4 and the New Balance championships. And he also led Prince George's County in receiving yards, and eventually, didn't have the grades to go to Division 1, but he actually went to NAIA school, Avila University in Kansas, and Eventually transferred, but you know, academically it was a little tough for him, so he eventually transferred back home and ended up at Bowie. And of course, um, he watched as Bowie won its second consecutive CIAA North title, and now he is the star as he's averaging well over 24 yards a catch, ranking fifth in the country in Division Two. Uh, a lot of big plays, a lot of home runs. Uh, very, very exciting football. Very exciting kid. He has 530 yards on only 22 receptions. That's massive. Um, so Bowie is fun to watch. They're probably the second best black college team behind my Aggies when you compare it all across the board, Division One and Division Two. So, uh, if you ever get a chance and you're in the area, go see Bowie State because you will see plenty of good football. And that's it. Also, check out his story on HBCUGameDay.com. Shout out to one of our former guests, the site creator, Stephen Gaither.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. My final thoughts will be free at last. UNC, no sanctions, nothing to report. Inclusive. Can't charge them with anything. Can't prove or even have jurisdiction to say that it was anything beneficial to the players, as this was a course that was open to all students. Anyone could enroll. So the NCAA was outside of their jurisdiction as they ruled, and basically minor sanctions were given to people outside of any the athletic programs. So 7 years, lots of money, lots of negative recruiting will all be pushed to the side, and UNC will be able to say in the end that hey, we didn't do anything wrong by the bylaws and guidelines of the NCAA and public perception, whatever it may be. They said that we were clean, so we're clean, and everything's staying the same like it always has. And those that don't like it, NC State fans, have a nice day. So for that note, I'm Don Delarente for my co-host, That's So Jesse on Twitter, Jesse, and TA Ball One on Twitter, Tyler Ball. Now you know the score.
Cool.
All righty then.